Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Woodstock, Georgia, it's time for Cherokee Business Radio. Now, here's your host.
Welcome to another exciting and informative edition of Cherokee Business Radio. Stone Payton here with you this afternoon. And today's episode is brought to you in part by our community partner program, the Business RadioX Main Street Warriors, defending capitalism, promoting small business, and supporting our local community. For more information, go to mainstreetwarriors.org. And a special note of thanks to our title sponsor for the Cherokee chapter of Main Street Warriors, Diesel David Inc. Please go check them out at dieseldavid.com. You guys are in for a real treat this afternoon. Please join me in welcoming to the broadcast award-winning author and teacher, violence prevention specialist with Power of Peace Project, Mr. Kit Cummings. How are you, man?
I'm good. It's good to see you again, Stone. It's been a minute.
Oh, it has. What a delight to have you back on the show and to visit with us in studio. I got a ton of questions, Kit. I know we're not going to get to them all, but let's start with a kind of a picture, mission, purpose. Tell us about Power of a Peace Project and what you're really out there trying to accomplish with that.
Absolutely. And thanks for having us. It's good to be back. It's always good to be invited back. You either did a good job the first time, but they're going to give you one more shot.
That's right.
We're not sure which one. But, the Power of Peace Project, it was born out of, pain, really, is what it was. Just a short little bit about me. So I was the least likely guy to become a preacher growing up. I mean, nobody saw that coming. I was the other guy. I was wild. And, addiction runs through my family line and it did not miss me. But I was a good athlete, but, nobody saw that coming. About age of 25, met a guy, changed my life. And, I fell in love and I started following and I started learning about things I didn't know. And I stood on a stage one day and something magical happened in front of that audience. And it's kind of like I teach the kids that there's a gift attached to your soul. We all carry a unique gift. And when it arrives, be paying attention. And that happened to me that day is a light turned on inside of me. And I was like, I don't know what that was, but I want to do it again. And my nature is I don't do anything a little bit. I'm all in, you know what I'm saying? I'm either trying to save the world or tear some stuff up. And so it's like, which way am I going to go? And so, I fell in love with God and I went after it with all I had. And I decided, man, if this is true, I got to tell the whole world about it. And I became a preacher. And turns out I had a gift and, my congregations grew and then I got more and then I got more. And by the time I was in my mid-30s, I was in charge of about 4,000 people. And my dreams came true. And then it got heavy. And then that old nature, came back around 40. And I had to lose some things to find myself. And I really did. The old nature crept back up and I went through a really dark, tumultuous year where I walked away from the ministry, went through a divorce, unfortunately. And then, found freedom from that in 2005. And for me, it was finding sobriety. About 1 out of 10 of your listeners have this genetic difference that I carry. And it
really is a genetic difference. It's not all environment and culture. And there really is a genetic piece to this.
Appears to be. And, it goes through my dad, his dad, me, you know what I'm saying? And so, So anyway, I broke free in 2005, but then I was out of the full-time ministry and I was a preacher without a pulpit. And I was sober, which was good, but it's like, well, what am I going to do now? Like, what do you do when all your dreams come true and you have what you want? You found out your purpose in the world and then you squander it. That's where I found myself. And so I was doing stuff. I was a mortgage banker, and I don't know, your viewers can't see me, but I certainly don't look like a mortgage banker, whatever that looks like. No offense. But, I did that, did a little real estate, a little insurance, just kind of low barriers to entry jobs, right? But I was dying because I didn't have a dream. I was in a dreamless state of life. And that would lead me to what, we're talking about today. But, I said a prayer and I meant it and it changed my life. I said, if you ever let me preach again, I'll go to the ones that nobody wants to go to. the hungry, the thirsty, the naked, the stranger, the sick, and the prisoner. And I didn't know what I was praying. It was just like, help me find my way back. I said, but maybe they'll have me. Because it's not like, a bunch of churches were out there, with want ads for drunken fallen preachers. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, I figured I was canceled. I was disqualified. But I wasn't. He wasn't done with me. And so I prayed that prayer, and I stayed sober and started working, and I got married again and really just trying to rebuild my life. And then that prayer showed up, and it came in the form of a kid that I knew when he was a little boy, 12, 13. I mentored him in one of these big churches I was leading, and he'd come up after I preached, Mr. Kit, and he'd tell me what he learned. And, he became my little brother. And then years later, he's 25 and he's in big trouble, and he's looking at a gang-related murder charge and a potential death penalty. And this is my little friend, Louise. No. Yeah, it was real. So I started working with him, not realizing that I was walking into that prayer. Yeah, I was working with, what he called the least of these. And so nobody asked me, man, are you willing to work with high level gang leaders? Are you willing to work with these killers? It was a young man that I knew, and that was what it was. And so I worked with him for 2 years, and that set me up when I was invited to go into my first prison. I've been in over 100 of them, 100 prisons, jails, detention centers across the country, 4 continents. The incarcerated became my life. So when I was invited in my very first prison, which happened to be the prison that was the most dangerous in the state of Georgia, I was excited because of my work with Luis. And the same thing that happened on that stage that day, it happened when I walked into that facility. Something turned on and a fire started burning, and it never has gone out. So I took that one idea and I started working with some very, very tough guys, and I had a gift. And so then I formed a nonprofit in 2011, and I thought it was going to be about prisons, bringing, prison reform and helping guys break free. But the more that I did it and the more that I was out there, it became about the kids. And so I published 6 books, and I think 2 or 3 books ago, I wrote a book called Protect the Dream. And we took that and started working with kids in schools and trying to help kids. And we're basically working with the ones that we're afraid of, worried about, mad at. In today's world, in the inner city, it's crime, violence, homicide, gangs. We do work in those places. But in the suburbs, it's self-harm, overdose, and suicide. So we're losing kids. I mean, this generation is in great danger. And so I shifted my focus, especially post-pandemic, and we really began to scale the program in the schools. And that's how I met this young lady, Joanie. You probably know her as.
Yeah, tell us about JoJo. How did that come together?
I was speaking at an event in Kennesaw, and afterwards you're kind of meeting and greeting, people coming up to you. I had done a keynote, and she stood in front of me, and I don't remember what she said, but it's basically, I want to help. What can you do? You know what I'm saying? I mean, she wasn't playing, and I was like, I was impressed, and I gave her my card, and I said, all right, here, hit me up if you're serious, and she did. And our team just fell in love with her. And she works with kids. She's a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I can't cuss. I was going to say bad. She's bad. But her skill set and her talent just fit very well with what we're trying to do with these kids in the schools. And so we brought her on, and here she is. And she brought me back to you.
So, Joanie, what was it that Kit said or did that compelled you to walk up to him and make that kind of declaration?
I mean, honestly, if you've ever seen Kit speak, you have to be there. It's an entire experience, right? It's not like he's saying this stuff and like, cool, this guy has good points. He just starts talking and you're like everybody in the room it was like a roller coaster ride to go talk to Kit afterwards. Like everybody lined up, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll just wait till the end. And I'm like, I don't have a problem speaking to people, but I went up and like, okay, it wasn't that bad, but I went up to him and I was like, listen, I have no idea how we can work together, but I always had this idea of helping, kids of abuse and doing a jiu-jitsu class. And I don't know what you do exactly, but like, I just knew I had to speak to you. And it just kind of was that way. He gave me his card, and I was like, either he responds to me or doesn't. And then of course he did. So I just continued. We had a whole talk, and I was like, guys, we met with another team member, Tony, and I was like, I don't have a plan. I was like, I've been, trying to follow this thing of like, just having faith in, like, I had this, go talk to this guy. Cool. Go and talk with them. And I sit down with them. And I'm like, I got nothing. I got no plan. It was just, I had to go talk with you. And Kit left going like, well, hopefully we can win this. And then talked to me the next day and was like, hey, some other team members want to meet you. So it was like, there was really no plan. It was just like, I have to talk to this guy. So I'm going to do that.
So at this point, though, there is some structure, some discipline, some rigor. There is a plan, and you are doing some of this work you described. Walk us through a day in the life of Joanie with that hat on, serving this constituency.
So, I mean, honestly, it's something I had no idea that I would be doing. People have been telling me like, "Oh, you'll be speaking soon," and I was like, I don't even know what that means. And for those of y'all that don't know, I teach Jiu Jitsu, and I've been doing it for 13 years, and I have a leadership program. So I've already been doing stuff where I'm helping kids grow. I'm helping adults learn how to grow. I'm helping them grow together. And so when he told me about the program in the schools, I was like, okay, I resonate with this. And then before I went to travel, Kit handed me the Protect the Dream book. So I read that when I was in the plane. I was like, this is something I really, align with and I can really get behind. And so since then it was, we meet, we talk about everything, figure out how we're going to bring it in the schools. And so like every day it's just me. I went through the program myself. I took a student through it, and it's just something that's like, it just changes you every day. Right. So the everyday life is the same as what I was already doing. Right. Because a lot of the stuff I get to do for them is personal growth, is learning how to help others grow. So I was already doing it, but now I, get to do it for a job, not just like a side thing that I do for fun. So not too much has changed, but it's a really big growth journey for sure.
So are you going inside the schools? Are the kids coming to your facility? A little bit of both? What's the logistics look like?
So we're going into the schools right now. We're in Osborne High School. We're doing the soccer, baseball, athletic leadership council, and looking at women's wrestling, correct?
Correct.
Yep. So we go there, and right now Kit's been heading it because I've never run the program before. So we're kind of learning from him and just speaking a little bit as he's going to be teaching us how to do this Protect the Dream program.
So you're going to try to replicate what you're doing. Of course, Joanie will have to make it her own when she's the one delivering this message, but you'll give her some structure and some to kind of get her ramped up. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. And she's built for it because she's already been in front of kids. She's used to leading. I love, and then the other young brother, I say young, they're in their early 30s.
Yeah, they're all young now, aren't
they?
Right?
But anyway, he happens to be a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy. So, but it works well because what we do is, we operate in schools, juvenile courts, juvenile detention centers, partner with law enforcement. So, we're helping kids that are getting in trouble and really trying to catch them before they make that choice. You know what I'm saying? To put that pill in their mouth that could have fentanyl in it. For when they start getting dark and having those self-harm thoughts. We want to be there. Kids need a place to belong. And so we're trying to catch them before, during, and after, they've gotten in some trouble, right? But the whole combat sport arena fits really well because ours is a lot about the mental game. And so we start with the student athlete in high schools because typically he or she has the most influence. People watch what they do. They become the trendsetters, right, in that school. Unfortunately, a lot of the most popular kids are driving some of the worst behaviors. It's just, you know what I'm saying?
No, I hadn't thought about that, but you're absolutely right.
Right.
Yeah.
So like and I learned this in the prisons. If I'm going to try to bring peace to violent prisons, I got to work with the gang leaders. I mean, that's the only shot is you got to work with those that are running things. So in the high schools, I'm going to start with football. And I developed this program called Protect the Dream. And then we started branching it off. And it is for all kids. We just kind of lead with, the ones that have the most say so. And, it's about character and leadership development. The whole concept is when a person has a dream that really starts in the soul, goes to the heart, into the mind, then we begin to express and we create, we imagine, envision our dreams. And these kids haven't ever been taught how to dream, right? How do you design a dream? How do you manifest it? And then how do you protect it? And so this generation, they ain't all about don't do this. It's like, don't drink that, don't smoke that, don't pop that, don't listen to that, pull up your pants, get off the phone. It's like, they're just like, want. They're not trying to hear that. So I figured out, what if we focus on what they want? Like, what do you really want? Like, what do you want hard? And they didn't have an answer. I mean, half of them are like, I'm going to go to the league. And I'm like, dude, you're not even starting on your high school football team. You're going to go to the league, or I'm going to be a rapper. It's like, really? Just because you know some songs, you think you can rap. And this generation wants things right here, right now. They don't know anything about delayed gratification. So dreaming is a new thing for them. But here's what I found. The bigger the dream, the stronger the pull, right? When somebody has a big dream, it pulls you through things. You'll say no to things that trip other people up. You'll say yes to things that might scare you a little bit, right? And so that attraction, the big thing always pulls the small thing. And once you develop that dream, well, then if it's a valuable dream, like I want to be the first one to go to college in my family, or I want to get a D1 scholarship, or I want to start my own business, I want to go on the Peace Corps, I don't care. Something bigger than yourself that's worth protecting. And then the game flips to now you got to become a dream protector. What is your threat? And so we have 7 dream codes, and this is what JoJo and Tony are learning how to facilitate. We talk about irresponsible social media. We talk about drug and alcohol abuse. We talk about bullying. We talk about objectifying the opposite sex or the same sex, using people. We talk about unhealthy relationships and disrespect of authority, lowering scholastic standards, things that can shipwreck a dream. If you don't have a dream, then anything that's bright and shiny will get your attention. Once you have that dream, now it's a matter of how do I get there and what are the threats and how do I manage them?
What a marvelous frame, because the whole time you were talking a moment ago, I'm thinking to myself, man, what a tough crowd. I've had a little experience doing some public speaking and facilitation work with people who have written a check and want to learn more about leadership or sales. But I can't imagine walking into, to try to have a conversation with a group of people who are really running things at the prison, the gang leaders or these kids. But that's that's the foundational piece, is that lens you have them looking through, that frame of identifying a dream and then protecting it from all of those things that can.
That's it. That's the game. And you're right. Yeah. It was like the laboratory that I learned in was just the toughest. I mean, I'm dealing with hardcore gang leaders, tats on their face, cartel guys in Tijuana. When you try to, and those were powerful times. I did a lot of foreign prisons, but Mexican prisons I really dug deep in. Everybody has a dream inside of them. It's a matter of tapping into it. Yeah. So whether a dude's doing life sentence or I've even worked on death row, I'm trying to tap into what do you love and what could you do if you gave it all your heart? You know what I'm saying? And once I learned how to work with them, people are like, oh man, these teens are hard. I'll have principals saying, don't worry if they don't listen to you. And I'm like, bro, you don't even know. It's like, this is cupcake right here.
So now in this new chapter with this focus on the youth, what are you finding the most rewarding about the work? What's the most fun about it for you these days?
It's watching a young person begin to walk into their dream and live it. We're blessed to have a few of our Protect the Dream kids that we met when they were sophomores, juniors, and were starting to dream and had some talent that are now playing football on Sundays. We've got a wonderful kid, one of the best kids I ever coached, BJ Ojulari, plays for the Arizona Cardinals. Miles Murphy plays for Cincinnati. Brother named Chig, that's incredible, plays for the Titans. And now they're becoming spokespersons for POP. POP is what they call us, Power of Peace Project.
Oh, okay.
POP. The kids know us as POP. They kind of like that. And so, but it's seeing these kids kind of become and walk into that dream. And then we get to stand back and applaud. You know what I'm saying? Kids are very impressionable. They just need new impressions. And I've found I need people like JoJo. I need young ones, you know what I'm saying? Because one of these days I'm going to have to lay it down, you know what I'm saying? And I don't want my work to die with me. So we got to find the next generation. And that's what we're doing.
So I don't know the first thing about Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, but I got to believe that there are some tenets of that discipline that apply so very well and fit well within this frame that you're talking about, that they really do resonate with. Yeah, Joanie?
So, it's interesting. I'm listening to Kit talk going like, what he does is he awakens people's subconscious, because it's like, I'm sitting here thinking about it and I'm like, why didn't I do all this stuff that I could have done? And it's like, yeah, the thing I always told people is like, man, I had the opportunity when I was in college, high school, everybody was drinking around me. I didn't drink. Everybody was doing drugs around me. I didn't do drugs. And it's just like, and what did I tell people? I got jiu-jitsu in the morning. And it's like, legitimately, that is why I didn't do it. I'm like, I got to finish college because I don't want to go well, I'm 40 working at McDonald's because I didn't want to go to school, because that is really what I felt. I did not want to go to school. So I did it anyway. And I was doing jiu-jitsu at the time, and I made, my school schedule around jiu-jitsu because jiu-jitsu was that thing I just loved doing. Like, everything else has bored me in my life, but jiu-jitsu is the thing that, like, no matter how much I do it, it's still just constantly learning stuff. So I'm going, oh yeah, that was that dream I didn't even know. Nobody had those words to say to me of like, oh, what's this dream that you have inside you, right? It's just, that was just it. I just look at people like, no, y'all can stay up late, but I got to go to bed. I got to get trained tomorrow. I can't train unless I get this homework done. So I got to get my homework done. So it's like so many opportunities to do the wrong thing that I didn't do, literally because jiu-jitsu.
She had something to protect. That's the thing, something valuable. And that's what these kids lack. I tell JoJo and Tony, what I love that we're going to be able to teach these kids, and I tell them, we're working with kids yesterday, is like everybody has a line out in front of them, and this is when I quit. All right. All of us do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Pushed hard enough. We have a time we tap out. And that's their whole world. So I'm trying to think of, okay, these kids, a lot of them, they just quit when it gets hard, whether it be the school or whether it be suffering, trauma comes into the life. There's a lot of things. Storms come. And what does it take to make you quit? Well, these guys are doing combat sports where when they're gassed and their body is done and their brain is trying to get them to submit, they can't. You can't just walk in and have a bad day. You know what I'm saying? Or I didn't really bring it, because you'll get your butt kicked with the way they do it. So I feel like their line is way out in front of them, farther than the typical person about when they quit. And that, it really bleeds into everything in your life. If you can get kids to chase something that's valuable, she said she would say no to drinking. Why? Because I got to get up and train. Give kids something, a reason to say no, to the things that are coming at them, which is, there's more and more being bombarded on these kids, threats, temptations, risks. And so we can take a lot of what comes so natural to somebody that's been doing this for 16 years. And I'll also brag about JoJo. She's the only female-owned Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym in the state of Georgia. So she's very good at what she does. But it's hard to get her to tap out in life, and that's what we're trying to teach these kids. Do not quit, ever, ever, ever. Dream big. It's worth it. Suffer, grind. Pain is good. That's everything that these guys do. I admire it.
So one of the terms that comes to mind for me is resilience. And my father was a high school basketball coach when I was a young kid, and it was a fairy tale childhood. I mean, it's pretty cool to be, the head coach's son. It was a neat childhood, but I never got really good at sports, but I was around it enough and played enough that I feel like I picked up some pretty good characteristics that have served me all the way through my life. And I feel like one of them is I learned how to win, but I also learned how to get knocked down and get back up. And I sense that that's a very important piece to all of this, is to not just tell them about that, but give them experiences to do that. Yeah.
That's it.
To answer the question that you had asked originally, is with jiu-jitsu, it's such a parallel to life in general, because people have been asking me this for a while and trying to come up with how to really phrase this. Just like life, right? In jiu-jitsu, like, you'll be winning, and then one day you walk in and like you're losing, and you're like, what's going on, right? In life, you're winning, and all of a sudden something hits you and you're like, what is going on? And it's just like, man, you walk in the room that day and maybe you're on your B game and that person that you're constantly beating is on their A game. You don't know. Maybe they've been on their C game for so long, and the second they step into their A game, your A game doesn't beat their A game. So it's just this constant, like, you're getting knocked down, you're up, you're down, you're up, you're down. And it's just this thing of like, you just don't realize, like, that's one of my favorite things teaching jiu-jitsu is these kids that come in like, well, I can't do that and I can't do this thing. And people don't take enough time ever looking back. I had a girl who could not do a forward roll. She could not forward roll. And one day I look back and I told her, I'm like, take a breath. We're going to roll through this. We do it. She does her forward roll. And then, a few months go by and she's forward rolling with everybody. And I looked at her, I said, do you remember less than a year ago, we were sitting in here and you're crying, telling me that you're never going to be able to do a forward roll? And she's like, I never said that. Kind of look, and she's like, oh my gosh, no, I did. And it's just like, there's so many things that we're capable of doing that we don't realize. And I think Darren Hardy did a good job explaining this, where he's like, well, he looked at a room and he said, okay, everybody raise your hand as high as you can. Right? So everybody raises their hand. And then he goes, cool, now raise it higher. And then everybody raises it higher. And he's like, all right, I'll give $500 to the person who raises their hand the highest. And then they do it again. And he's like, this literally shows you, what was the first thing I asked? Raise your hand as high as you can. And then somehow when I said to you, now raise it higher, you did. So it just literally proves to you right there. It's that simple of just like, A, we need people that come in and tell you that you can raise it higher and that show you that. And then to go, oh, look at that. You're touching the ceiling now because what you got innovative. You got on a chair, you stood up, you went and you touched the ceiling because you want that thing. So it's like we all have these limits. We think, oh, well, this is as high as I can raise it. But I'm still sitting down. As soon as I stand up, my hand goes higher. So that's the thing that we do with this, right? Is it's showing them. That's what jiu-jitsu does. It shows you all the time. Oh, you think you can't breathe here? Like, nah. All you gotta do is just turn a little bit and you're fine, right? So that's, I think, that aspect too that jiu-jitsu brings into Protect a Dream is it's like, man, you're constantly in these super awkward, uncomfortable. I show kids jiu-jitsu in middle school and they're like, you want us here? And it's like, you guys are hugging each other and you're upset because I want you to hold this person. And it's just like, yeah, because it's awkward, it's uncomfortable, you're not used to doing that thing. Well, guess what? You still have to. I mean, I remember being a white belt, and this is one of the few things I remember as a white belt is we were doing bridging and shrimping, which are very fundamental movements of jiu-jitsu. And I was like, if somebody looks in this window right now, they're going to be like, what are these crazy people doing? Like, it just looks insane. But then it's like when you see that in action, most important movements you could ever make. So it's doing these things that feel uncomfortable and realizing what they bring to the table.
So you're doing the jiu-jitsu, you're teaching all these lessons, and by virtue of engaging in these activities, they're picking up these lessons. And there's also, you're facilitating are you also sitting down with them and facilitating some conversations, not unlike the one that we're having right now? It's both of those things?
At my gym, yes, and in the program as well, because we go there weekly to work with them. So they have in the book daily things and actions that they do, and then we meet with them weekly and we talk about like what happened that week. There's questions that we pose to them based on these dream killers, and we really like listen to what they come up with, and it's super cool because I've brought Kaylee, which is my main student, through the program before doing it with Kit, and just listen to how she sees and thinks about it. She even was like, I didn't know anything about Kit or the program, and I really decided to do it because you said Kit was so great, this program is great, so I'm gonna give it a try. And I thought, I don't know how it's gonna help the kids in my school. And she's like, I'm just reading this going like, yeah, everybody should do this program. She's like, it's just these little changes that are happening inside of you.
So the speaking, did that come really easy to you right out of the box, or did you put some real effort into studying some mechanics to deliver a message on stage really well, or a little bit of both?
It was just natural to me.
It
was like it was like I was supposed to do it, and I knew what to do. Now, obviously, I've worked on my craft. You know what I'm saying?
Sure,
I always am. You can always,
raise your hand higher, right?
That's exactly right.
That's right.
But yeah, it was something that became my passion, and I just loved it. It's in a good way, it's intoxicating, the connection that you can develop with an audience or an individual if you speak into them. And that's what these kids don't have. They don't have people speaking to them and into them. It's more speaking at them and not listening. And so we give them a platform to share. I mean, these kids are hurting. That's why they're doing the things they do. And that's what I did. That's what's cool about our team. JoJo is probably the one that's done the least damage in life. Our team.
You've got real street cred when you're talking to these folks, don't you?
Like, you don't even know. All the dream killers, man. I experienced all of them. So I speak from a place of experience and just not just the people I've helped in these crazy situations, but all the poor choices I made. Now the curse becomes a blessing. And so, all the things that are regrets or you're ashamed of or the bad choices, they can all become a blessing if you turn them around. And so it's like, tell us about yourself, Kit. I told you my worst stuff up front. I led with it.
Right.
My failure, my worst day. And I do. I want people to realize that, man, failures are not final. Your best days are ahead. I don't care how old you are, but it's all about dreams. Dreaming is so powerful. When Dr. King, he took that word that the day before, August.
Yeah, that was like a late edit, wasn't it?
Right. I mean, August 27th, before his speech, tell us about your dream. Well, I don't remember my dreams, dreaming at night. When he said, I have a dream, he took that word and he electrified it. And he gave the nation a vision when they were in a hopeless state. about what we could be, and we're still chasing it. But the same is true. I think a dream lives in the soul, and it's awakened, and that's our job, is to awaken the dream, just like JoJo was talking about, inside of every one of us. And it is different for every one of us. I mean, your gift is different than mine and JoJo's.
Sure.
But this young generation, man, they are easily inspired if we are authentic with them. I'll share about my worst days, and that helps them trust me. You know what I'm saying? I ask them questions and actively listen, and they feel understood, and they laugh because they know I'm an older dude, but I act like them, you know? I mean, I become them, and they keep me young. That's why I'm Benjamin Button.
It sounds like Pop has at least a double meeting, right?
That's true. They were trying to guess my age yesterday, man. It was fun.
So how about the writing? Did it come as easy, or was that a little bit of a struggle when you started writing the books?
Definitely.
It was
that
different?
One was harder. Yeah. Huh. They say if you can communicate, if you're an effective communicator, good speaker, that writing, a lot of times you can do that too. Mm-hmm. But I read my first book, I released my first book in 2010, and I'm like, I don't even sell that. I don't want to do it. It was great content, but I hadn't learned how to write. And I think I haven't even got close to where, I could be with it. Yeah.
So the structure of this book that's sitting over there by your arm, JoJo, tell us about that. Walk us through a little bit about the kind of content that's in there and how you use it to serve these kids. And they all get a copy, it sounds like.
Yes.
Correct. So it's kind of like a journal,
I'd
say.
Okay.
He introduces, how Pop came to be, and tells you about some of the stuff that's happened with Pop and through Pop. Talks about the dream killers, and then one of my favorite things, Halt. And then he goes through, and every week he's got like a local flavor is what he calls it, because Kit is from Georgia, and so there's coaches that are from Georgia. And then he talks about, their quotes. And then after that, every day we have one of the famous, best athletes that we've heard about. And he gives two of their quotes, his perspective on kind of that area. And then the fascinating facts, I think, is what one of the greatest things that he does through there, where he gives you the things we kind of already know. We can look up, their achievements, but this thing that you didn't really know about them that links in with the message of their quote or his perspective on it to make you think about it. And then there's a daily action challenge where they have to do different things. Some days it's, help somebody out on your team. Some days it's, do one more. Some days it's, look at people that you care about, give them a hug, thank you, whatever things. And every week there's this caution flag, which is something that Kaylee really enjoyed, where it's just like, pay attention to how much they talk about weapons in your music today. Don't do anything with it. Just be aware of it. And, like I'm saying, he awakens that thing in you, right? And that's the thing is the awareness piece. And so it's opening your eyes and making you become aware. And it takes at max 5 minutes a day. I'm a slow reader, and it takes about 5 minutes a day to really sit there. You read it. And I think Kaylee, she was doing it at night so that she knew the next day what her action challenge was going to be. Because if you read it kind of in the middle of the day, you don't have a chance to do it. So as long as you're doing it at night in the morning, but it just leaves that thing in your mind. And it's so many times you come back and look at it and you're like, wow, this thing happened in my lap today. And it's like, no, because you put it out there. So that thing happens. And so it's like, just, every day dreaming while you're awake is what I'd say this kind of does for you. And you're just constantly re-looking at the stuff and making it the forefront of your thoughts.
So I'm not a troubled teen. I may be troubled in ways I don't recognize, but I'm definitely not a teen. But I want a book. I mean, I want to buy a book because I feel like I would benefit from it, and people around me would benefit from it. What do you guys need more of? How can we help?
We're a nonprofit.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So funding is always have to find partners that believe in what we're doing. And I think fundraising is about inspiring trust, that people believe in you and believe in what you're doing. I think everybody looks around in today's Gen Z, and then the alpha generation is coming after them, the little brothers and sisters of our teenagers and young 20s. And we're concerned. I mean, a lot of it has to do with the devices in their hands and all the threats that come with that. But basically, it's a generation that is facing more threats, and they're bombarded with so much. They're listening to gangster rap. They're playing Grand Theft Auto. Everything is sexual. I mean, it's like younger and younger kids are being exposed to things that we didn't see until we were in our teens or later. And now all of a sudden, these young minds, they need new content. So what we do is we provide daily content that's positive and motivational, instructional. And then the challenge is gets it out of their head and into their life. And they have to actually put it into action, which is how we create habits. And then we drill down deep into the things that could threaten their dreams. And so everybody, you would love it. And we'd love to get you a book, but nobody, if you go through the process, it will impact you. It'll change some things.
I'll bet. So funding, let's talk about funding. Is there a mechanism to just simply donate money? Is there fundraising programs, events, that kind of thing? Speak to that a little bit.
Absolutely. Some people that are listening might just care because they've had someone they love or someone that they know, has family that have tragically died of an accidental death, an overdose, died by suicide, or got incarcerated. It hits home. And some people have resources and they'd love to donate to a cause. They can simply go to powerofpeaceproject.com and feel free to donate. We're looking for corporate sponsors. So when we have an event like the one we're coming up in December 5th on the square in Marietta, we're going to have tables that corporate sponsors purchase. So if you want to have your name tied to something that's positive, for our youth, partner with us. I mean, volunteer, what I'm saying? There's a lot of ways. Or if you're out there in the grant world, we're always looking for grantors, people, benefactors that can help us.
Fantastic.
We do spirit nights at restaurants too.
Yeah.
So there's a restaurant, Three Amigos, and we're doing it every other month. So the next one, I believe, is October 12th or 14th, whatever that Tuesday night is. So Monday. I will get y'all that information, but basically a part of the proceeds that day, anybody who goes there to eat that night, all you got to do is drop your receipt in and they'll give a percentage of the proceeds to Power of Peace. So you'll see us out there and we'll have those events up. But so we're doing, or if you own a restaurant and you want to do that with us, like a spirit night, or a business and you'd like to have a spirit night, that's another way that can be very helpful for us with the fundraising.
Something else that we do that's really catching on is we do events where it's cops versus kids. Because you talk about natural rivals nowadays. It's police officers and young people. It's dangerous out there. And so we'll put on cornhole tournaments. We're doing a kickball game with some of the student athletes at Osborne against Cobb County Police. And then we'll just have a lot of people come out and cook out and make it a big time. So we get creative to bring people together, whether it be the popular and the unpopular kids, whether it be rival gangs, because I still do work in the juvenile facilities, and there's a lot of gang-affiliated kids. Or if it happens to be our fine men and women in blue, trying to, because they need that. I mean, they really need ways to connect with the community, and we provide that.
They do, and I got to believe that there's room for acquiring a body of knowledge as a parent, a grandparent, an uncle, a sister-in-law, that would help us utilize some of these strategies in helping to raise someone in our family, right?
Big time.
This is really important stuff. So just to get your hands on that book or to tap into your work and see and hear what you're doing, I got to believe you would walk away with some ideas to impact the kids' lives or anyone who's troubled. In fact, in a lot of our interviews, I will often ask the guests to share a couple of actionable kind of pro tips, like just some things to be thinking about, reading, some, a do, a don't. I'd love it if we could leave, the lay person, right, that's not in the trenches like you guys are doing it, but that, the parent, the grandparent, just a couple of things to keep in mind who are trying to impact kids' lives. I'd love to leave them with a couple of. And look, the number one pro tip is to tap into this work that JoJo and Kit are doing and get to know what they're doing. But yeah, a couple ideas on that.
Yeah, we teach a lot of what we do is I take brain science and I kind of I dumb it down a little bit because I started in some very tough facilities where maybe education level is not super high or with younger kids. And so we teach some basic elements of brain science about be careful of the content. I mean, your brain, who I call Uncle G, we make it fun for the kids. The original Google, the original GPS, and the original gangster if you don't pay attention to him. But anyway, he's a learning machine. Everything you look at today, everything you touch, taste, feel, smell, experience, everything you speak about, everything you hear, everything you read, whether it be the ear pods and what you're listening to or what your eyes are visualizing, it's all content that is wiring your brain. Whatever you do today is going to be easier tomorrow. And so it's all about content. The brain is a learning machine. It's learning everything we do today. It's going to be easier to do it tomorrow. That's a blessing or a curse, right?
Right.
Also, Uncle G is a storyteller. Okay. So all day long, it's the voice in the head that's chattering mindlessly and if we don't get involved in the conversation, then it's being wired on our behalf. And so it's a storyteller. It's a learning machine. And he's also a chemist and a dealer and a junkie. I mean, all this chemistry, whether it be adrenaline, dopamine, serotonin, all is triggered by what's going on in our head. So what we get people to do, whether it be old, young, whatever, is pay attention to the voice in the head, get involved in the conversation and get intentional. Goal setting is huge. Don't just make the goal, make it a SMART goal. Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-bound. Review your goals every day. Make sure Uncle G's know what you want. He can find you what you want, just like Google. He can take you where you want to go, just like GPS. But if you leave him alone, he's going to run the show. I don't know if that's a pro tip.
That's a fantastic pro tip. And I love the way you frame everything you've been describing today. And now I'm going to walk out just thinking about Uncle G. That's my biggest takeaway. And it is so true.
Pay attention to Uncle G, man.
All right. Let's leave our listeners with some coordinates. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I want to give one on the other end is for parents, especially and teachers and people that are dealing with these teenagers. Remember that they're not doing this because of you. Like all teenagers do this because it's human evolution. They are trying to break free of dependence and they go into dependence or independence. And then you're trying to go into interdependence. So all these acts of rebellion and all that is nothing to do with the parent or the authorities or any of that. It's literally human nature, right? So we've all been there. We've all done that. And you have to remember that when you're speaking to them, because like he said, all they hear is don't all day long. Cool. But what is the do's? What are the things that, why should I even listen to you? You don't listen to me. So it's one of those things like, man, it's that respect thing that he talks about, Kit being he in all of his books, right? You got to give him the respect of like, oh, you're a human being going through the human being thing. And we understand that. Let's lead you the ways that should work for you. So always remember on the other side, man, I just feel like so many parents, adults, teachers takes everything so personally that these kids say and do. And it's like, homie, you were doing the same thing. You were doing the same thing and probably worse, right? So always just remember what it was like being there. It's that whole generational thing, right? Always the older generation talking about the younger generation, and it's always the same thing every generation that goes through. So just remember that. It's got nothing to do with you. It's what they're going through. Let's help them through it. They're already in such a weird, confusing place. So...
Well said. I'm so glad I asked. All right, let's leave them, our listeners, with some coordinates. What's the best way to tap into your work, find out about the work that you're doing, JoJo, any of this? Whatever you think is appropriate, website, email, LinkedIn, but let's make it where it's easy to get to you.
Yeah, Rise Up Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like I said, the only female-owned Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym in the state up there in Kennesaw. Recommend it highly. I mean, kids, adults. I mean, she's awesome at what she does. powerofpeaceproject.com. Also kitcummings.com. We've got books there. YouTube, if you want to look into some podcasts, and we do a lot of stuff around youth there as well. I mean, you can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook. Our Facebook page is Power Peace Projects. We're easy to find. Our office space is right off the square in Marietta. And I'm also looking for opportunities to spread this message. So I do keynotes, I do workshops, I do seminars. So
well, it has been an absolute delight having you two on the show, and a particular privilege to have you in studio. This has been an inspiring, invigorating conversation. I just thank you so much for your insight, your perspective, your enthusiasm, your wisdom. What a marvelous way to invest a Wednesday afternoon, man. This was.
And thank you for having us. That means a lot.
Awesome.
You're helping us blast the message, and that means a lot. And thank you for what you do.
Well, it's my pleasure. All right, until next time, this is Stone Payton for our guest today and everyone here at the Business RadioX family saying we'll see you again on Cherokee Business Radio.